Welcome to Dogelog Episode 1. This is the series where I share with you the business and development process of taking a project that started as a joke and turning it into a billion-dollar unicorn company that is going to the moon. We have some serious business matters we need to discuss today, and it's not that Ben Awad doesn't have a girlfriend. It's that our lead developer, Ben Awad, his coding output is at an all-time low. This week, he made a total of 52 commits. I know that's it. He's kind of depressing the entire business team. Compare this to last week, where he made 166 commits. That's a decline of 69%. And yeah, the math did kind of just end up like that. Now, of course, the number of commits that a programmer makes in a week is a terrible metric to gauge their productivity. But as a businessman myself, these are the type of useless statistics that we make important decisions on. When the business team and I were investigating the root cause, we discovered that the number of pull requests seemed to be inversely correlated with Ben's productivity. This week, there's been a total of 222 pull requests merged in. And if we switch to the month view and do some quick maths, we'll discover that 150 pull requests happened before this week. So a crap ton of pull requests got merged this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was a GitHub world record. And that's when we realized we have a very low utilization of our current workforce, all caused by a singular bottleneck. That bottleneck is Ben Awad. See, what's happening is there's a lot of people that want to contribute to Doge House, which is great, but they all need information or assistance from Ben, which is causing a slowdown. And the Doge House executive team doesn't put up with these types of inefficient systems. Just like how our technical architecture needs to scale to the moon, so does our open source project infrastructure. That's why we've started to roll out a solution where we have a middle layer of Doge ambassadors that sit in front of Ben and help onboard new contributors. We might also introduce a chief open source Doge that sits in between Doge ambassadors and Ben that coordinates everything and just prioritizes and closes GitHub issues. The majority of pull requests have been for updating or adding translations because here at Doge House Inc., we take internationalization very seriously. Last week, we only had 13 languages, but now we support over 40, including Uwu and Pirate Lang. So we have introduced a senior internationalization Doge that helps review and merge these specific pull requests. As far as funding for the project goes, nothing's been decided. I mentioned last week that there was the possibility of Doge House joining an incubator called Launch, which Jason Calacanis created, and the deal is they give you $100K plus mentorship for 6% of your company. But there's been a ton of interest from angel investors to invest in Doge House at a much higher valuation. So an incubator may not be necessary, and the Doge House Incorporated financial team is still looking into it. Okay, so we can talk about dev stuff now. This week's number 0 priority has been the new design. So far, all the Figma components for the desktop dashboard view have been converted into React components. And originally I was having the designer review the look of each component that came in from open source contributors before merging in that PR. But this ended up taking way too much time from the designer, and it became apparent that the bottleneck would be the mockups or Figma designs, not how fast we could code the components. So I told him to go ahead and go back to working on mockups, and I'll take over the job of spot checking the components. And I figured he could also just batch review all of it together. And I've started to combine everything together and hook it up to the API, so it's actually fetching data from there. Right now it's only the desktop UI, and it's kind of hard coded that way, at least the grid. But the designer is almost done with the mobile version, and then that's going to be integrated in soon. There's been some contributors working hard on the desktop app that uses Electron. They've added global keybinds, which means you can now mute yourself without having to have the window in focus. There's a nice little status bar at the top, and desktop notifications are now a thing. I set up a GitHub action that runs every time I merge code into the prod branch, which builds a Linux, Windows, and Mac version of the desktop app that you can download in the Releases tab if you want to try out the desktop app. And by the way, the filter option on GitHub Actions is a total life changer. You can give it a specific path, and it only runs if that subtree changes. The project is migrating over to Yarn Workspaces, which really just means we're going to start using Yarn install now, because we now have some shared packages. A contributor is working on separating out the client interface into a separate package called Kebab, which is then going to be used in the Next.js project, the React Native project in the future, and it's also going to be released as an NPM package. And this is for anyone who wants to install it and basically programmatically make calls to the API. For example, if you want to make a Doge House bot. I finally got around to adding custom emotes in chat. There's only a couple Pepes right now from Better Twitch TV, but the logic is in place now if anyone wants to add one. And this is a good PR. All you gotta do is upload an image and then add the name to like a list, and then you're good to go. Someone made a PR, so now you can actually see how long a room has been live for, and there's an emoji representation for each one, and it starts at fueling the rocket, and it used to end at solar doge, but rooms started lasting longer than that, so now it's been updated all the way up to spotted life. There's been 2 problems that popped up this week that I've yet to fix. The first one has to do with a workaround to get unbanned from a room, or really unbanned from anything. When a room creator or mod bans you from a room, we insert it into a room block table. The problem is with how I implemented deleting of accounts though, I wanted to follow GDRP, so I was doing a hard delete that cascaded across all tables, so we literally stored absolutely nothing about you when you deleted your account, but then people were able to just circumvent bans by deleting their account and then creating a new one. So in the meantime, I just disabled deleting of accounts. And I'm not sure how companies actually handle this. I'm guessing like maybe GDRP has a clause about this, which says you wipe all their personal information, like username, display name, all that's gone, but they let you keep, say, their GitHub ID. So if they create a new account with that GitHub ID, I know you've been banned from these rooms. Otherwise, I'm not sure how literally any company that is GDRP compliant is able to enforce bans. Problem 2 is impersonations. We have a username field which is enforced to be case insensitive unique, but also a display name which is not. And we've been using that display name for the text underneath your avatars and the name in chat. But this causes a problem because people are copying each other's avatars and copying their display names, and you can't tell them apart except on clicking on their profile and reading their username. This fix is much simpler. I'm probably just going to stop displaying display name in all those places and use username instead. For those curious about how much it costs to host the backend, here's the breakdown for the last 18 days of how much it costs and how much usage there's been. So the biggest cost is the 2 VPSs, the RAM and the cores for both of them. So it's 8 CPUs and 32 gigabytes of memory for both. And then after that, it's bandwidth. And I actually didn't know what EMEA was, but apparently this is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So you guys are taking up the most bandwidth right now, so congrats. If you add up all the bandwidths, it's about half a terabyte. And then if you calculate all the prices, it's a little bit over $300. That's it for this Doge log. Stay tuned to next week where Doge House will probably be getting a totally new wardrobe and will be wearing a ton of makeup.